Let's go. Here we go, team. Welcome to the One Big Team podcast. This is episode 5. Today I had on Lyndsey Muños, and she is an incredible person and a new but great friend. She is an expert performance and wellness coach and an expert lacrosse coach. She had an incredible playing career at Stanford, and then she went on and got into the college coaching game. She coached at Ohio State. She did consulting work with Johns Hopkins, and then she currently coaches at George Mason University. She runs LM training. She's an absolute force of good. And in this episode, we dive into a ton of things: coaching, lifestyle, communication, identity, vulnerability, basically all the good stuff. I hope you all enjoy. And as my friends here at T-Pow Studio want me to start asking, please subscribe to the show. Here we go. Thanks, guys. I love it.
All good. Here we go.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to get into it. Let's start right now with gratitude. All right, so it's 11:55 East Coast time, Friday, and you came out to the studio today to be with us. But what are some things that you can express some gratitude for from today?
There's so much to be grateful for. First you for having me on, and having me on here. For this pleasant drive in. Leesburg is a very cute town. Did not know, had no idea, not been here before. Also Nick Stoop for introducing us.
Yes.
Have to be grateful for that guy.
Absolutely.
What a gem of a human.
Oh, I love that.
And also I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude for, surprisingly, a weekend off. I only have one training session.
Wow.
And told the parents I would dedicate it to them and hanging out with them, and with lacrosse season, just ending. I've been very busy, as I'm sure you are as well. It's going to be nice to have some down family time.
I love that. I'm happy you get that downtime. So we're going to go into your background in a second, but thinking about the practice of gratitude and mental strategies and mental agility, mental fitness. And then we had a conversation at lunch yesterday about all this stuff. Can you kind of touch on right now, like, what is that channeling of gratitude, do for you? And I have my own gratitude practice, and I know that you utilize these mental strategies and skills, but what does that do for you to be able to shift yourself into that state of gratitude?
Yeah. I think a word that you use that really describes it really well is just grounding. I think in life there are always a million stressors, things going on. But, when you can just find a couple things that are really meaningful to you and you actually let yourself feel that, like, there's just no better feeling, and you just feel ready for whatever's going to come at you. And I think it's just really reassuring, especially with the past year and everything that's been going on and the craziness, just to say, hey, of everything that is going on, at least I have this good, in my life, and just channeling that into every interaction and every situation you encounter moving forward is incredibly beneficial.
Yeah, I think about the ability to have command over your thoughts, your actions, your words, and the practice for me of the gratitude journaling. And now I really try to do it throughout the day when I catch myself. It's a mindfulness practice, catching myself being caught up in things I can't control, whatever it may be, and then, all right, coming back to a place of gratitude, and I feel physically a lot better, right? I calm my nervous system down, and for me, it's mental reps each night, trying to put myself into that state. Now, at the end of the night, it's a very calm setting, and the real strategy is to be able to do this in a chaotic environment. But, I just love that stuff, and I'm so happy that we're going to dive into all the mental strategies and skills. And I think it would be good to go into your background and as a player, and, we'll go all the way into coaching, but sharing some of your highlights and hardships and how it inspired you to become the coach that you are now. And I think we can nitpick some strategies that you used or wish you used, and we'll dive into that stuff now. So if you wouldn't mind sharing some background stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So something that I'm very vocal about is how my struggles and hardships have really shaped the person I am and the person I want to be, and the coach I want to be. So I'll just dive, right into that, not afraid of it at all. So I guess from a playing, just general background, I'm originally from Maryland. I went on to play lacrosse at Stanford. It was there that experience, like, just truly shaped me into the person that I am today. But again, going back to the hardship that I faced, there was one thing overweighing everything, and that was just really the uncertainty in who I am. and this question of just identity and what that means. I think up until I got to Stanford, identity to me was defined by the people I was around, the media I consumed, and I let others tell me who I should be. There wasn't really a sense of Lyndsey being empowered to express or even knowing or even exploring really that person that I was fully and fully embracing that. So just for example, when I was in high school, about sophomore year, that's when I first began to realize that I was attracted to women. And I, again, will fully admit, I really developed some very strong internalized homophobia that made it incredibly challenging for me to fully accept that of myself. I was not the person I want to be, and it also limited me expressing who I fully am in my interactions with my teammates, coaches, everyone. And so, I just, it just took me a really long time to accept that. I was so afraid to embrace that too. And I think fear is a big word that comes up for kids when they're talking about embracing who they are. I also never really heard people talking about or expressing language of uncertainty. It was if people were out about who they were and comfortable, it was, here I am, this is me. And I didn't see anybody saying, hi, well, I think I might, be attracted to women, but I'm not fully sure. And because of that, I was just quiet for a very, very long time. And I was so fearful of everyone else, and because of the internalized homophobia that I did feel, I actually started a relationship with a girl when I was in college, and it was about my junior spring, and I actually kept that a secret for a very long time. And again, it was just because I was just so afraid of what my teammates would say. And unfortunately, in large part because of things that, I definitely played a part in because of that internalized feeling that I had, which again, I wish I could take back. But, ultimately our experiences shape who we are moving forward. And, this is something that I absolutely will admit to really anyone, clearly, in hopes that they can learn from my mistakes. And so I went on to come out to the team and my coaches my senior winter, I guess it was before winter break or something like that. And they were all, could not be happier for me. Same thing with the coaches. Everyone was more so giving me responses like, I couldn't believe you didn't tell us sooner. And so I think that just speaks volumes to a lot of this sometimes irrational fear that we create, and what can happen when you don't have control of your mindset and control of what is actually going on, because a lot of times perception shapes our reality, right? And being so closed off and fearful really was a detriment to me. And if I would have been open to having at least one conversation with someone, I think that would have helped me immensely. And that's definitely one of the bigger struggles that I faced. But I think it speaks to the large question that I felt, which was this big identity question. Yes, my sexuality was one piece of that, but also, like I said before, I was in high school, who I was, it was Lyndsey as the great student athlete that I was. I was the lacrosse player and I was a great student. And when either of those wavered, my just being collapsed, and so my senior year specifically, all throughout my playing career, it definitely was a roller coaster, but my senior year was particularly challenging because as graduation is looming, both of those things are coming to a close. And so not only did I not have the skills that I needed to cope with, what I could do to help myself when I got stuck in these spirals, when a couple goals went in and I began to question, oh my gosh, so-and-so is going to be mad at me. They're going to be so disappointed. I'm so disappointed in myself. And all of these thoughts that are coming in, I had no strategies to deal with them. And it just also really hurt me and how I could recover in that. So because of that, after starting for 3 years, I actually ended up getting benched in the very last game of my career, which was, incredibly unfortunate. But because my season was like this, it was almost bound to happen. And I totally understand, I was uncertain. Some days it was great, some days it was not. And just if I had those good days, it was like, okay, I'm valuable, I'm great. And if I didn't, then again, my whole self-worth was questioned. And if you don't have self-worth, if you don't have a basis to build on, it's just not going to be helpful, right? So that's why moving forward, I have shared my story with as many players as I possibly can, because I truly believe that, I want my story to serve a purpose. I want my struggles to serve a purpose. And, it took me a long time to be okay with, the knowledge that, one game doesn't define your career, one season doesn't either. And how important the mental game is, because it wasn't that I wasn't a good goalie. 2 seasons or a season before, I was named to the Torin watch list, which is incredible. I'm so honored that I was named to that. But, you don't just go from being named to something like that to then getting benched in the last game of your career in a year because you're a bad goalie, And so I just hope more kids see that and really hear that and feel it, because I think I, heard people say, mental skills, you need to work on your mental skills. And I didn't really understand what that meant. And I know we'll dive into that in a bit. But yeah, for me, those are definitely some highlights that push me to where I am today.
Yeah, incredible.
Like, you don't just wake up one day and not be good.
No, totally.
And I think it takes hearing that for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh yeah, you struggled. Like, oh yeah, you just must have not been that good. I was like, no, I have the accolades. Yep. they're there. I was a really great goalie. Yep. And that's why I'm still obviously pursuing, playing, because Absolutely. I just feel like there's some left in the tank that I'm hyped about.
I can't wait to see you get back on the field. I mean, your vulnerability, your willingness to be vulnerable and share that, there's so much strength in that. And I know you're aware of it. And when you talked about the journey of self-discovery, I think when we as people go down that journey for ourselves, we then can help people on their journey. And it probably is the most important journey that we take, diving in and better understanding who we are and how that's separate from what we do. And that, I think that's foundational to the mental game of life and the strategy. And that's absolutely incredible. And I really appreciate you sharing all those things. And I'm excited to kind of dive into those a little bit more in regards to that separation of who we are versus what we do. When did it kind of hit you that that was what you were struggling with, and realizing that the attachment to that identity of Lyndsey, the perfect goalie, the perfect student, and anything that doesn't align with that is a struggle? When did that awareness come into play, and what was that experience like?
I mean, I really started to realize it, I think, towards the end of my senior year, and that spring season. As I began to applying for jobs and thinking about what this next phase of life is going to be for me. And I kid you not, I remember journaling. I have no idea who Lyndsey is without school and lacrosse. And that was alarming. Yeah. And so I knew this. Again, I just didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what my extra hobbies were beyond watching TV. And I just didn't know myself. I didn't spend time with myself. And I think that's a large part of what I did after I graduated, to be honest, in the years following, trying to do different things, reading different books, listening to different people on their journeys. and getting into meditation and things like that, that allowed me and gave me the space to really see and find who I am.
Yeah, that strategy of journaling and asking that question, and you did that. You were prompted by that by, I'm going to get asked some questions by somebody who's interviewing me. And then you went inward and did that reflection. And I just think in asking the right question, there's so much power in asking ourselves the right question. And one of the mental performance coaches that I like listening to, he always says, asking the right question is better than giving the right answer. And I think for ourselves to really come up with these prompts and then to journal them, to have a conversation with ourselves can be such a powerful tool. And I mean, the simple one of who am I? And that's something I think it's a little bit intimidating, maybe for even a younger person, for anyone to really dive down. But once you get past that fear, and there's a lot of freedom there, and when you get that clarity of who I am and those things that cannot be taken away from me if I have a bad game or a bad day at the office or whatever it may be, I think is really powerful stuff. Would you say journaling is one of the things that has really helped you on your journey of self-discovery and just being, the coach that you are now and the person that you are? Is that one of the things that you've been consistent with?
Absolutely. I'd say that my use of journaling has varied through the years. There are periods where, I want to journal every other day, every day, sometimes more so just once a week. But it is just the one space where I truly can explore my thoughts. And what I want and set goals for myself and just think through whatever is on my mind. If any of my friends, anyone close to me will tell you, my mind is constantly full with lots of thoughts, as we all are as humans. And so to just have the space to just let it all out. And personally for me, I have always gravitated towards writing. It's something that I love to do. It's why I blog so much. And I love just sharing and, doing things like this where you can build connections off of that and find people who think similarly as you is the most amazing thing in the world.
It is.
But just going back to using the journaling as a space for anyone to really try to explore these different thoughts and ideas that they might have is just incredibly beneficial.
Absolutely. I keep saying absolutely, man. That is
I love
incredible. And I mentioned that to you yesterday.
Yes.
I'm trying to build my awareness around that. So this is good talking it out on the show.
I love it.
I completely agree with you. And it's a practice that I've really gotten into in the past couple of years, really heavily in the past year, where I'll do it each morning, maybe even throughout the day and at night. And I really like this concept that in your life, you're both the author and the main character. And you have this higher self-perspective and direction of your life. And then you also get to live in the moment and experience it, the good and the bad. And then so when I journal, my way of doing it now is really writing the story of my life. And in the morning, writing down, this is how I'm going to feel. This is going to be great. And I'm going to deal with this in this way. And I just think back to me as a high school kid. And I know someone said something about journaling. And I'm afraid of what I actually said. But I know that I didn't even consider it. And it wasn't until college, until I started doing a little bit more of this work and then making it a habit. But yeah, I think it's probably one of the top strategies for someone to do this work of self-discovery to help in their performance on the field if that's what they're focused on in that moment. But it'll really open up some other avenues there.
Absolutely. And I really love it as a source of reflection as well. Like, yes, exploration and just generally getting your thoughts out, whatever your worries are, boom, getting it out, letting it out is great. But like you said, too, really setting up your day and imagining, using it as a source of visualization and mental reps to an extent in that way, but also reflecting, which is how I use it when I do it on a weekly basis. What went well last week? Who did I talk to? Who do I need to talk to moving forward into the week? Because I'm sure, like you have friends all across the country.
So many friends, Lyndsey. Oh, so many friends.
And just, maintaining relationships is like the most important piece of life for me.
It absolutely is.
And so always using that also as a resource to facilitate improvement and growth is also incredibly important to me in how I use it as well.
Yeah, I made a joke on a couple podcasts ago that all my friends are in middle school because I spend so much time with my athletes, it's hysterical. I mean, just if we're going 168, how many hours of the week I'm spending with people of my age, it's very little compared to people in high school and middle school, which is great. So much fun. But that's why I was just making the joke, because I do have a lot of friends. Yeah. they're just a little bit younger.
I feel that.
It's a lot of fun with them. I think about the skills of self-awareness and self-talk. And we had a really good conversation yesterday about a specific strategy to help athletes when they're in the process of getting those reps. And then also the process of journaling. You just touched on reflection. So let's go with reflection first. What does that look like for you, at the end of the week in your journaling? And do you have a specific process? I follow this type of prompt for reflection and it gives me clarity in X, Y, Z. What's reflection mean and look like to you?
So for me, I really look at a couple of things. I look at what did I get done in the week, from a business perspective, work perspective. What did I do? Who did I work with? And how did those training sessions go? As a way to, again, start to think about how I can be better moving forward in more so my career work life. I also try to reflect on what did I learn and how did I grow in general. Sometimes I do better at this than others, if the week is more hectic or I allow myself to get busier than I would like, or, be a human and spend too much time on social media, which, yes, absolutely happens to me too. Again, with the relationships, who was able to connect with, who do I need to connect with, who should I reach out to? Those things are really important to me as well. And then just looking at my training, how was the training, sleep, nutrition, all that good stuff. Yeah. How can I shift things moving forward into the next week as well?
So it sounds like for you, it's a full spectrum approach of, got the business and how did this go? Boom, boom. Let me improve my craft. And I know you love your craft, so that's an enjoyable process. And then, you're still playing. So how am I performing on the field of my training and in the weight room? How am I taking care of my body? And then with the people that you surround yourself with, your athletes, your players, your fellow coaches, your friends, parents, and am I making the time for them? I think that's the approach that we all should take. And it just happens to be that for younger athletes, I think getting into a journaling thing, saying, hey, let's just start with post-game. How'd you do? What'd you do well? What do you want to do better? How are you going to do it? Boom, boom. That well, better, how strategy. And then, hey, you want to take this into the next stage of your life? What about school? What about your relationships? I think that's a great one. And we touched on the 168 strategy, and I know you have that in your mindset manual, which is absolutely incredible. And for every young athlete listening, I think you should go to her website, Lyndsey's website, and grab the mindset manual. But can you talk about the 168 strategy and, what's that, again, provided for you? And then maybe also some of your athletes that you've used it with and they've used it and you're like, wow, what a game. And they've gone back to you and said, wow, what a game changer that was for me.
Yeah. So it's actually interesting. So like you went through Brian Cain's mental performance mastery certification. And I had no idea the 168 plan was actually called a 168 plan because I was just doing that in my Google Calendar before, or I was doing it in a notebook, planning out my week.
Cool.
Because I'm a really big Brendan Burchard fan, and his big thing is, if you don't write it down, it's not going to happen.
Sure.
And I absolutely agree with that. There's a lot of things we want to do, but if you don't make time for it, is not going to happen. Yep. We're busy people. We let things come up more easily than others. And so what the 168 plan is, and like I said, you can do it in a variety of different ways. For me, I just like doing it on my Google Calendar on my desktop because I can clearly see everything. If I need to drop and drag something, it's very easy to do. I'm not constantly scratching out a pen and whatnot. But basically you write the essentials first. So sleep, when you're going to school or work or whatever your, appointments, those things that you absolutely have to be at. You put those things in there. The next things are the things that, are a little bit second tier. What do you want to do? So in the example that I have in the mindset book was from when I was living in Los Angeles and I was working through a nutrition certification. So I had time dedicated to that course. I also will put in there time that I'm going to hang out with my friends so that I know I have dedicated fun time and it gives me something to look forward to. Or I'll just put general reading time, growth time in there so I can leave that open for myself to do, whatever I want to do. And in talking about habits and routines, I have time slotted in there for a morning routine, whatever that may be. And this is something that I used to judge myself for a lot and think I need to do this every single day. And for me now, I really leave it open to myself and just say, hey, what do I need today? And sometimes it's a quick breath. Sometimes it's a quick, to-do list of the day, writing out what I'm going to do. It's a quick text to a friend saying, hey, I'm grateful for you, and starting the day with a moment of gratitude. But that's really fluctuating in what I do. But with that, a lot of times I tell that to kids. I show it to them. And their eyes get all big, or they're just like flat faced, thinking this blank stare like, what is this? So I will say this is not something that you need to do on a weekly basis. It's something that I would suggest for young athletes to do every time they enter a new season, so you can really see where those openings are. Yeah. Because I'm sure like you get that comment from kids all the time that's like, I don't have time. Yeah. But you actually do if you planned it all out and found the openings. There are some in there that you're just not quite using as efficiently as you could. And so that's the really big push for them. So just try to do it once. And then if things don't go exactly to plan, again, giving yourself grace, understanding things will come up. They always come up. It's life. But, using a lot of the mental tools we have to reset, reground yourself, understand that you can control what you can control. And understanding that your response is always the most important thing, and how can you ultimately, respond the way you want to in a given situation to redirect that day, whatever you had planned.
It makes me think of this concept of productivity shame. And when we're not on top of everything and getting so much work done and productivity, we feel poorly about ourselves. And that, I think, goes back to the conversation about identity. And if we don't have a good grasp on who we are versus what we do. Now, I want to be a Hall of Fame coach and run my academy and be the best at this. But if I miss an email and I am not able to separate those two things, I may be really, really upset with myself and cause more stress on my physical body than that is necessary. But if I recognize I'm a human, I'm this and that, and these things can't be touched, and what I do is not who I am completely, it's only just an expression, that can help, having that core understanding of your identity. I think that's important because, I've written down schedules and it's helped, and I've also not getting everything done. And being able to give myself that space to be like, that's okay. But it really comes back to what you're talking about, that identity and the awareness of it. Because when you lack that, it's just tied right into it. It's just one big storm there. And then I also think about, I told myself the story that I procrastinate. And in school, it was like I wait to the last minute, and I just perpetuated this self-belief that I'm a procrastinator. And I don't know if I heard this somewhere, but what I realized was that I wasn't the master of procrastination. I just lacked clarity. And once I got more clear on my time limit or constraints and what I needed to do first, I started being a lot more productive. And that's something where like the 168, and I don't do it every week. What I do is a very micro version of that. Just the night before, I have my time block on a whiteboard, and I just list out hour by hour kind of what I'm generally planning to do. And it really is amazing how much more in control I feel. And I know we love talking about the control and the controllables as mental performance coaches, but it's very simple. If we focus on what we can't control, we'll feel out of control. And if we focus on what we can control, we feel in control. And what a simple and sweet gift that is for anyone at any point in their life. And to have that self-awareness of like, oh, there I go down a loop, worrying about stuff I can't control. Let me come right back. And that's why, tying back into gratitude journaling, it is the ability, the mental agility to quickly change the state you're in. Once you become, this is mindfulness. Oh, there I go. I'm going down a loop. It's causing me stress. Let me shift myself back into a state of gratitude. Let me come back. What can I control? And then go. And at first, just like anything else, there's a little bit of resistance and friction, but you get better and better and better at it. And I'm curious for you, what are some of those things that maybe years ago you started the journaling and like that type of mindfulness practice and it was like working, but it was kind of sticky. But now you're like, wow, I'm 5 years in or whatever to this mindfulness or meditation practice and it is just flowing and I'm so much more skilled. So what are some things that you've used that now you're like, I'm really good at this, and as far as like the mental game?
Yeah. I mean, I think to your point, what I wish I knew when, you know, I was younger, there's just so much the mental skills that I wish I could give to my younger self. But I think first of all, the bigger thing is to have patience through them. You know, you said, yeah, now 5 years into, you know, meditating and using breathing. Yes, I finally feel confident. Breathing is my go-to.
Totally.
Always, every single time.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of a joke because when anything stressful is going on with my friends, I'm like, just deep breaths.
So funny.
And they laugh every time. They're like, they give me the face.
It's so
but
funny.
it's so true. You take a couple deep breaths.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's just night and day. And there are a number of different strategies, you know, 6, 7, 8. There's square breathing is my absolute favorite. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yep. Box breathing.
Yep. That's the one I go to for all the kids, especially goalies, because they have that natural break where you can just close your eyes and visualize that square, and that's all you need. I've been really big into listening to this Stanford PhD, he's a researcher there, Andrew Huberman, who's big on stress response. He has a lot of research with that, and how specifically extending your exhale is calming. And so he also has a breathing technique called the physiological sigh. And you do like, it's a whole thing. You can look it up. I recommend it. That has been shown to calm people down. So basically, I just have a ton of different breathing strategies. So when one doesn't work, boom, we got the next one. That doesn't work, boom, we got the next one. And that's also a really key piece to the mental skills that you really do need this toolbox full of things, because one thing isn't going to work every single time. And what's another one? Probably one of my go-tos is visualization and taking mental reps also. It doesn't matter if it's being on a podcast or, you know, coaching some drill. I try to, as much as I can, go through and see, you know, sometimes in more detail than others, but try to feel the way I want to feel. Feelings are very big for me, as I know they are for you also. And so trying to be there and feel the kind of person I want to show up as, see myself doing the things that I want to do and the person I want to be. It doesn't guarantee success, but it absolutely helps. I mean, they've even done studies with injured athletes. When they go through mental repetitions, they lose less muscle. Yeah. Which is incredible.
That's amazing.
But it just goes to show how strong the mind and body connection is when you use it well.
Absolutely. There it is again. Absolutely. But I'm fired up. It's my go-to. I'm going to work on it. All of those skills are so spot on. And the breath. And I remember it took, I don't know how many years it took to hear that over and over. And yeah, if I could go back, that would be the first thing that I'd teach myself. I'd say, hey, this really does work and it really does calm you down. And it's something that you always can come back to and get centered from there. And when I do the control the controllables exercise for myself, what can I control? What can't I control? I usually always start with my breath. I can control my breath. I can control where my attention goes to. And then from there, my attitude and my words that I speak and all that stuff. I mean, I think about, we had a big game Wednesday night, and I'm trying to install some of these mental skills into my coaching game now. So one of them that I said I'm going to do from here on out, and I've been introducing it this season, and Wednesday I felt really good with it, was when we score, I'm going to yell. Like, whatever happens, right? And usually I jump, I flex, I run up and down the sideline for a second.
I love it.
But then I do a breathing, just quick deep belly, like 2 or 3 deep belly breaths, and I put my hands behind my back and I come back to a centered, calm state. And what a difference that makes. And I'm thinking just to Wednesday night, we had a big game, and I felt...
Big game. Big W.
Game, big
I
W.
have to give you the props. Big W.
All the props to the kids. They were incredible. And just how centered that made me feel. And I was like, wow, I really, after the game, I was like, that was a game where I felt fully present and I was in tune with my athletes. And that's how I want to be as a coach. It's a game for me as well. And the game is how connected can I be to my players and feeling what they're feeling, and then helping them overcome whatever mental hurdles it is or technical adjustments that need to happen. You got to be intensely present for that. And the breath is a great way to be present and come back to that. And I think this was kind of what we dived into, and I shared this strategy with you, and you were in tune with it. But, working with an athlete and they're struggling to get the skill down, you say, how many reps do you think it's going to take? I don't know, 20 more reps, coach? Okay, well then go ahead. And then by 20, they're like, it worked, it's great. And that clarity it provides you is super good. Can you share the one story that you told me yesterday about that?
Yeah. So you told me about this, and I just loved it so much. I needed to try it as soon as I possibly could. So I was at a training session with an athlete, and playing the position of goalie is incredibly technical, and I really preach moving in a different way, moving as fast as you possibly can. So it's different than how they've moved before, and making changes as a goalie is very challenging because of that. It takes a lot of reps. And so I remembered what you said. This goalie in particular was struggling to make a change. And I said, how many times do you think it's going to take you to fix this? And she goes, I think 5. And I said, you think or you know? She goes, no, 5. And I said, okay, let's go. I kid you not. 5th one does it exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And she goes, I said, why'd you pick 5? She goes, it just sounded like enough. So it was just incredible, again, to the power of the mind, and when you feel in control of a situation and confident in that, it's just unreal.
It is. And to me, that skill set is both self-awareness and self-talk, because if it's an incredibly difficult skill, and it's the first time doing it, it's going to take more than 5. So you have to have that awareness to really understand. And that's what the coach does. They help you understand, this is where you're at, this is where you want to go, this is what it's going to take. So that's one huge skill that you got to have in there. And then it's really them teaching them to talk to themselves. And I do it now myself. And how long is this really going to take for me to finish all this programming? Okay, it's going to take me 30 minutes. All right, well, I can buckle in for 30 minutes. Stop, freaking out. This is going to last forever. So it's really those two key skills of self-awareness and self-talk. And then what you touched on earlier, it's motivating when you give yourself that set bracket. All right, 5 reps. Then you really lock in. And that's what competition can do. That's what a timer can do. And I know you do all sorts of training. You're incredible. But it reminds me, I did CrossFit 2 or 3 years ago solely for the reason to just get into a new routine. Yep. And I don't know what all this, the hype's about. And they put the timer on, and I went into a different mode. And I was like, wow, I hadn't really felt that since college. I was like, that's pretty sweet, and just having the clock or these different parameters can really help. Are there any specific ones that you try to use, parameters, besides that with athletes that you've seen to help them?
I'm just a big timer person.
Nice.
As well in the work.
Yeah.
Because like there are 20 different balls in the air constantly, which I love, but it can be very overwhelming if you're not on top of everything.
Yes.
And so setting timers for what you're doing and making small lists for me. So if I can say, okay, and this aspect of what I'm working on, I need to get these 2 things, maybe 3 things done.
Yep.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
If I start listing out 20 things, not good. That's overwhelm right there.
Yeah, it makes me think the precision nutrition certification. I think the first thing that they teach us is the 5-minute action. Mm-hmm. And you need to understand that if you want to eat healthy, it takes time. Mm-hmm. And how do you understand time? Well, you got to put a timer on for 5 minutes and go to work and do things that maybe you don't want to do in that moment. And that strategy for me is undefeated. Mm-hmm. I do 5 minutes. I've never stopped the timer to quit. Mm-hmm. If it's like housework, uncluttering the house or whatever. And what a simple strategy that is, both, for your work life, your at-home life, just doing simple stuff. And most of the time, once you get moving, right, those movements change your mood, and then you're in a rhythm. I might as well do 5 more minutes of this, and I might as well do that. So the timer is definitely a powerful one there. I would love to transition now kind of back to your playing days and some mentors and coaches that you had, and then also relationships with teammates. And we can take dives into either or, but as you know, I'm super focused on this mentorship space, and it's just incredibly powerful what people can provide for others based off of their journey of self-discovery or understanding a specific position at such a high level and elevating a person to a different realm of skill and all of that we can share through our experiences. So can you touch on some key mentors in your life and maybe what are the specific things that they provided you?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many that I could really dive into. For me, probably the first one in high school was my goalie coach. His name is Mike Molster. He is actually now the assistant coach at Penn State. So it's been a really incredible journey to see his journey go off because he started at a local high school and then was volunteering at Hopkins and Towson and then went on to coach at Towson full-time and then went to Penn State. And he was someone that, without a doubt, was probably one of the biggest pieces to my success in high school. If I had a bad game, I was calling him. I had a good game, I was calling him. And after each game, in those instances that I had a bad game, my mom still, if she's talking to a player that I coach or, a former goalie or anyone that has questions about playing goalie, she's like, they need a goalie coach because having someone they can connect with on that level, because as you know, there are not a lot of goalie coaches out there. So therefore not a lot of people fully understand you. And having that connection is just really takes the athlete to another level. And the way Mike coached me made me feel incredibly comfortable. He also pushed me beyond belief, which was amazing. Literally, I remember him if I missed a rep, he'd be like, "What was that? I know you can move faster than that." And I absolutely needed that. I needed to be pushed. So he was a fantastic resource for that. And he also taught me the whys behind everything. And it's one of the reasons why I'm a big why person, because I want the athletes I train to be able to go on and coach. I think it's so important that we grow the goalie coaching space and the people that are knowledgeable about the position, because so much help is needed in that area, especially for the females. Another person that has been incredible in my life is Amy Bacher. She was my coach at Stanford. And then when I was looking to get into college coaching, she was one of the first conversations I had. And one of the first people to say, hey, if you want to get into this, you can come volunteer with me. And I was able to volunteer with her. And not only is she an incredible coach from, both a macro and micro level, but also I would consider her a mentor and just how she is as a person, and how she really balances coaching and life. I was very fortunate that when I went out there, she let me stay at her house for a couple weeks with her and her family. And, to see someone, that had been my coach in college, and to now see how she lives her life and that balance, especially because that's just something that so many people talk about, especially for women getting involved in coaching, how difficult it is to balance being a coach and having a family. And she just does it so well. It was really great. For example, we'd have afternoon practice, come back, the kids would come back, they'd have late family dinner, and then we'd have glass of wine and watch practice film from the day that practice. That's for an in-season life, that's amazing. That they're able to do that, and so I'm incredibly grateful to her for all of my experiences that she allowed me to have.
Totally.
And then I think not really related to coaching or somewhat related to the sport. I have some people that I just really look up to as coaches and people. One of those people would be Les Spellman. He's a speed coach out of California. I had the opportunity to actually meet him. It was this crazy story. I just saw all the work he was doing, and I wanted to become a better trainer and coach. And I saw that he was doing some programming in the area that I was coaching. And I sent him a message on Instagram and was like, hey, if you have any programs, I would love to help you work. Can I help market them? I just want to learn and be better. And he literally responded and said, I'm going to be in your area for 24 hours and gave me time. Can you meet me at whatever? Can you get some girls together? And I said, yeah. So he basically came out and did a free clinic. He literally works with just worked with Trevor Lawrence this summer in preseason camp. That level of a coach came out, and not only, he spent probably almost 2 hours teaching my girls how to run, and then sat with them and talked to them about his injury, about his journey and how he recovered and why he's coaching, and just is such a model for someone that does it for all the right reasons. And I will follow him and do whatever, support him forever. Because of that. That was just truly incredible. I was not even expecting him to respond, and then that happened. But he's just so smart too. Such an incredible story. So
that's amazing. I think with the mentors that you shared, with Coach Mike, he pushed you. It sounds like he was intuitive to how you wanted to be coached, and that's something that we'll probably dive into, how you coach your players and recognizing they can't all be coached the same way. He taught you the why, which definitely helped make you the expert that you are today, because he could have just repped it out and not taken that extra time to make sure that you understand each detail. So it's obvious how that has influenced you, and probably at an earlier age sparked your interest in having an expert level understanding of the position and the nuances. And then with your coach that brought you over to Ohio State, getting to see the lifestyle balance and being able to get that insight and say, yeah, I like the way that this person has created their life for themselves, and this is something that I can see, which is super powerful. And then the experience with Les, where that's like career-wise, this is the type of person that I want to be, where I'm never too big to make time for people who need it and to give back. And he's an incredible coach, and I follow him, and I've actually purchased one of his programs so that I can improve. And that's just amazing. And I think those 3 stories really highlight, not just mentorship, like the human experience and what we can learn from each other. Those are all incredible. So what about diving into teammates and people that you shared experiences with? Not saying you didn't share those experiences, those people, but the exact experience, being players in these scenarios, dealing with this adversity and whatnot. And then I also the question, what are the traits that you can think of that make that great teammate and the person who makes the environment that much better, the person who pushed you? So can you highlight maybe some people by name or just some specific traits that really stand out to you?
Yeah. So kind of, I guess, going chronologically, one of my best friends, her name's Kelly McNeilis. Shout out, Kelly. Great person.
Shout out, Kelly.
In high school, we played the same club team, went to the same high school as well. And it was our goal, without question, to play Division I lacrosse. And I use her support as an example a lot to the athletes I coach, because a lot of times when we think of support, we think of this traditional sense of, you got it, you keep going, cheering and rah, rah. And really true support is someone who at times needs to hold you accountable. And that sometimes isn't nice or pretty. And to be honest, I think sometimes females struggle with that to an extent. And so I am incredibly grateful to not only the traditional sense of support that Kelly provided me, but also, this more intense side of support where we would literally be sitting on the couch watching TV and she would look at me and say, get up, we're going to go shoot. And she was in tacker, and I was just like, I don't want to, no. And no, get your butt up, we're going outside. And there are days that I had to do that for her too, which is, great part of the friendship that we had. And that just speaks a lot too to the person she is. She is always my go-to for keeping it real with me, which I more than appreciate. And those hours that we spent outside playing just speaks to the players that we became. And there's just no way I would have gotten here without her. She ended up playing at Boston College, so, not too shabby, of a school. And she was a really great example of being a teammate for me. And then moving on to college, oh my gosh, all of my teammates are incredible. I mean, I could speak for hours on them. that is probably the highlight of going to Stanford, is the people that I met there. In my class, I am incredibly lucky. So there are 3 girls in particular that I was especially close with. Megan Lerner, Anna Kim, and Rachel Ozer. And again, just speaking to the support that they provided, it was very much in the same way. They had my back when I needed it. They were there to push me when I needed it. But it was also the fact that we all had this shared goal of, when we came to Stanford, we were Amy's first recruiting class, and we all wanted to do something special with our 4 years and try to transform the program and get us towards winning a national championship. That was always the goal every single year. And so we were always on board and, looking to see how we can create community in our team and how we can get everyone on board to do this. Throughout my life, that has never wavered in the slightest. And I think that speaks volumes to what they do now and who they are as people. Megan now, she all 3 of them actually played in the last World Cup. So Anna is the captain of Team Korea.
Wow.
And then Megan and Rachel played for Israel. So I think that also speaks to how much we all love the game.
Yeah.
And I think having friends and teammates that are on board with you on that are so important, because I remember we'd take study breaks and we'd go play lacrosse late at night. Like, that was our fun. And I think when you're playing at such a high level, it's so easy to forget how fun the game is and how much joy there is in just playing the game.
Totally.
So I'm so grateful for that and them always bringing the joy into those situations. But going back to, where they are now, I think, again, it just shows the people they are. Megan's a doctor now, urologist.
Wow.
And Anna, oh my gosh, last year fully taught herself how to code and totally transformed this company's way of selling. I do not understand how she did that. Like, so impressive. And Rachel is now creating a new system of transportation with Hyperloop.
Wow.
Crazy engineer. But also, does all this flag football and kills it. And just, Anna's also running her own business, doing, it's called Avanti Jeans. And just, they all are just going back to speaking to that, earlier when we were talking about identity.
Yeah.
And these are people who just have just so much life to them, and personality. And those are the people that, you want to surround yourself with, that encourage difference and exploration and pushing yourself. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to be around them throughout my pretty much since graduation, really. And I think that's really rare for people to have. And I do not take that for granted for a second.
So many great nuggets of wisdom when you really break it down in everything you just shared. And one that really comes to mind when you said how your friend, the attacker in high school, growing up with her made you the goalie that you are. And I think having this awareness of, wow, I'm not much without these people that I spend time with. And having a deep appreciation, and this can be an activity to help bring somebody back into a state of appreciation and gratitude, that the people around me are really shaping me and giving me life. And then there's also the side of it, especially for younger people, learning what positive friends really do look like, and recognizing that just because you grew up with this person, you don't have to go down the same route as them, and you have the agency to decide who you spend your time with. And that is something that you need to do for yourself, and take the time to consider, who do I want to be around? Who do I want to be like? But it is really fascinating how molded we are by the people that we spend time with, especially over a concentrated period of time. I think it's such a gift and such a unique thing of the human experience. And I think you can always come back to that piece of gratitude for those people and how they've shaped you. I think about an experience when I got hurt my freshman year, redshirted, and then I had this comeback sophomore year on a bus W now first game. And I I don't think I did this on purpose, but I was really channeling this intense gratitude for the struggle of getting back from injury and this deep appreciation for everyone in my life, even people that may have done things to me that at the moment I was frustrated with. And I was crying in the bus. I think I was listening to like Metallica too, so I was like out of it. But I'll never forget that moment. It gives me chills to think about it. And I guess what I really was doing at the time is what we're talking about, just recognizing how special these connections are and how they shape us. And I think with practice, that can be something that we can always come back to, and you can cherish those relationships.
Yeah, I think that, expressing gratitude for those relationships is something that not enough people do. I have a practice every year when the holidays come around. Like, that's my time to, I do it frequently anyways. I'm always willing to do that. But like, that's where I really just try to go as deep as I possibly can to try to get people to understand how much they mean to me.
Yeah.
Because not only does it fill me with a great sense of gratitude, but I just think not enough people express how much, they're valued. And those relationships, like, yes, they're amazing because of, what they do and what they've accomplished, but the people that they are, just far surpasses that. And it could get me a little emotional thinking about that. I'm not gonna lie. Just because, just even thinking about that makes me feel grateful that I get to be around them.
Totally.
Truly.
The strategy that you have in the mindset manual about sharing your commitment with 3 people to hold you accountable. And you mentioned in the book that your teammates, they shot on you and you made them better, and then you saved their shots and made them better. And can you talk about that strategy and why you put that in the mindset manual and how you've seen that work for yourself? And you kind of touched on it, but can you talk about that, sharing your commitment with others?
Yeah. So I think that sense of support, is misunderstood. So I wanted to really call that out. But also to try to understand yourself and how you're motivated, and understanding that different people fulfill different roles in helping you get to where you want to go. For instance, how your coach is going to motivate you and help you through the goals you want to accomplish is different than how your parents will support you through that process. And understanding and asking for the kind of support that you need. I'm sure you'd agree, in coaching, every single kid that you coach is different. So it's incredibly valuable. If a kid came up to me and was like, listen, coach, I execute the best when I'm coached this way. Wow, thank you. Because that's all I want to do, right? That's all coaches want to do, is help you play the best that you can. And if you already tell us that, you make my life so much easier.
That's great.
Because so much of our job, especially when you're first starting somewhere, is trying to get to know the kids, because you can't coach every kid the same way. You have to get to know them to know how you can coach them better.
Totally.
But then in the parents' respect, that was a big one for me. My parents and I actually had a pact that they would not talk to me after bad games, specifically losses, until I was ready to talk about it.
Wow.
And it was, and after every game, I was just always greeted with a hug. And, it's okay.
Oh.
And then when I was ready to talk about it, I talked about it. And then I usually called my goalie coach in high school. Yeah. And it did wonders for me. I would see teammates come off and they would get reamed at, and it just, I could not imagine growing up and dealing with that kind of support from your parents. Like, that's exactly what is not needed. But that's why it's also important for kids to recognize, how do I need support? Do I need a little bit of tough love? Because some kids do thrive getting tough love and keeping it real with them. And some kids need more of a,
space.
They need
or
space,
love or whatever.
Just a different approach. So I think it's important to really think through that, what environment, what feedback helps you actually move forward.
The car ride home is something a lot of sports psychologists talk about in regards to educating parents about, hey, this is going to be a time that you're going to want to give your kid space and acknowledge really that you love watching them play and you love them having fun. And hey, are you having fun? Are you having a good experience? But you don't need to dive into technical adjustments they need to make. And you definitely don't need to ream at them after a loss, especially youth. And it's crazy that those are things that, I know you're dealing with and I'm dealing with. And hopefully we are a part of the change and we're better educating parents. But I love the point that you just made about educating players on two pieces. One, recognize how you like to be coached. When do you like to get, yelled at or be in more an intense environment to keep you focused? Or do you want to be really relaxed and just, you want me to whisper to you, hey, you need to make this adjustment, go do it, whatever it may be. That's one. I think that's a great thing for players to go into and to have that time to discover. This is really when I'm at my best and I'm getting feedback, this is where I'm at my best. And then also for a player to go to their parents and say, hey, mom, dad, like, I don't want to talk after games. Can we agree that the car ride home, like, we just don't talk about the game, especially if we lose? All of the parents that I know, I can't imagine any of them saying, no, we're going to talk right after the game. Car ride home, like, I got to tell you my feedback. I can't think of any parent I've ever worked with and their kid that wouldn't be like, yeah, heck yeah, good for you. Let's do that. That may be the new way of doing it, because I used to just always tell the parents, hey, car ride home, no, can't have it. Yeah. And I don't know if they're living up to it, but the going to the kid, I think that's way more powerful. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to use that one. Oh, we were just absolutely ripping and running. How long have we been going? I don't know the time we started.
We got an hour and 13 minutes.
Oh, I love it.
Probably the first 20 was good B-roll kind of stuff anyway, so you really...
Oh, yeah, we chatted for a bit.
Yeah, probably been
cool.
For about 50 minutes.
I love it. Great. So let's dive into coaching, and which we've kind of been we've been all over it, but we'll do a little bit of coaching.
Yeah.
And specifically, you've coached at the college level at Ohio State, at Hopkins, and now at George Mason. And throughout that process, you've been working with younger players and the youth throughout the whole time. And I know that we've talked, and that's made you a much better coach. And what we were just touching on, each kid needs different communication styles. And so I guess that side of it, what have you picked up on? How has that made you a better coach? Being able to go from senior in college and then in the same day, 7th grade beginner, how has that improved you as a coach? And then also, what are the struggles that you see that maybe are similar? What are some of the messages that you're giving to them that are like, wow, this is applicable for, the 6th grader and it's applicable for the 5th year senior?
Yeah. So I think going first on, how my coaching has shifted, I'm someone that is just, I generally tend to be super positive, and I bring that into coaching all the time, and I want everything to be good. I want to be your support, your cheerleader, but also the role of the coach is to push, right? And so really going and jumping into that college level has really pushed me into another level of coaching and understanding that a level of intensity has to be there, and you can be intense without being degrading towards a player. And I think I had a altered perspective or misconception of what that really looked like and entailed, and understanding that you can, again, be intense without putting people down, and understanding how those both can work together, and you can be instructional also without being fluffy, if that makes sense. Totally. So I think it's really sharpened my coaching, and I think it's just only going to continue to grow moving forward, and I'm incredibly excited for that. I'm also excited because as I've learned and shaped, I've also brought that into some of my lower aged coaching as well. And they actually do really well with it as well. I used to think too, the younger kids, it needs to be fluffy. And that's not always the case. I think it always is on an individual basis. And for example, I have a 7th grader who there is no fluff. She does not want fluff at all. She wants to get after it every single time. I have to make her take water breaks because she's so intense all the time. I'm incredibly excited for her future because she's just going to ball out.
That's great.
But, it really just depends on the athlete. And I think the more I've coached and the more I've seen that proven to be true, that you have to coach the athlete. They're obviously, in certain aspects, you're addressing a team. So, that has to be, that's general. But as much as you can, try to focus on the athletes themselves and understanding who you can push more so than others, going to that support piece. From a technique perspective, I would say a lot of things that there are similarities. They just are, I guess, slightly different. So I would say technique is absolutely still the most important thing across the board. However, I would say what I'm working through in the aspect of technique is very different. For instance, with the younger kids, I'm usually teaching them a lot more of, or we're trying to fix a lot more, I'll say. With the college kids, it's really more so about harnessing down some nuances of their technique and certain situations that come up. It's also different because when I step into a setting in a college space, they've already been coached, for a significant portion of time. They've developed. And so it's, how can I use what you currently have and then make it better? I might not totally make it to how I exactly would play, but that's fine. That kind of change takes a lot of time, and you have to understand what you're really working with. And that's something that I pride myself on in my ability to do in every, university that I was at. And sometimes, it's very easy to fix. And sometimes those little nuanced things are incredibly hard. And so it requires more time to fix them. But across the board, the mental game is definitely something that all goalies need help with. Again, to the extent it varies. Some just need exercises. They don't know strategies at all. Some need, hey, you need to do this regularly. And, they just need to practice more. And the younger kids, they just need a lot of everything. They need the 168 plan. They need the goal setting. They need the breathing. They need all of it. Because there's just not a lot of basis there. And talking about the identity piece too, figuring that out. Who you are and what do you want. Because a lot of kids don't think about that. Why are you doing this? Are you doing this because your parents are putting you into it, or is this what you really want? Because if it is what you really want, that's going to facilitate change much faster. That's going to push you to put more time into this thing and get better faster. So, those are the conversations that I'm having. I don't necessarily need to have that with Division I athletes.
Sure.
It's there.
No, I think one thing that you touched on, and it goes to knowing how that athlete needs to be communicated with, but also when you said there's a level of intensity that's required to be at your best in a training environment. But the foundation, trust, right? If the trust is there, you can be sharper with your energy and communication, and then you can test the waters a little bit in the way that you challenge them with your communication. But I think that baseline trust is so important. And, talking about identity, I think it's really empowering to recognize that who we are and what we do are separate. But what we do is an expression of who we are. So you have the 7th grade athlete, the goalie, who is intense, doesn't want to take water breaks. And I know you're going to help her if you're doing it already. Hey, listen, you are this incredibly focused athlete, but that's not who you are as a whole. It's just an expression. And that's a strength of yours, because guess what? You can take this passion into all of these other things. And if you lose a game, you're not losing any of that, right? You're not going to lose my respect or your self-respect because you didn't win a game and you let a ball in. And I think it's just so empowering. I think at first it's there's no, that's it. That is it. It's just empowering. And I think about that for myself and being able to rest at the end of the night and be like, wow, it's what I do. Being this coach is an expression of who I am, but I can separate it and I can take a breath and really be at peace with those things. And I know that it is fun, and I know there's challenges going back and forth in the same day with the age bracket, but wow, what a gift it was. And I'll never forget the first time, and I was coaching at PVI, my high school team, and the first year I was there, so many D1 committed studs, and I was like, man, this is amazing. And then I was coaching them, and I'm like, man, I'm this sick coach. I'm coaching all these studs. And then I go coach a clinic for 1st and 2nd grade, scoopers. And I went in there with this, I'm going to turn these kids into machines. They're going to be doing this. And I got there and they're yelling and they're crazy. And it was such a shift for me. And the funniest thing about that day was I'm trying to teach them really, change of direction, all this stuff, right? I'm in it. And parents are looking at me and they're like, what's going on? So then I played the game all right, everyone just chase me. and all the kids are chasing me, trying to take the ball away
Yeah,
from me.
yeah.
All the parents' phones come out. And they're filming it, and they are loving it. They're
Oh
like,
my
"This is
God.
amazing, Coach Mabry. This is great." And the kids are just chasing me down.
Oh,
And I just always think back to that when I have my younger players or the guys who've graduated that will come and coach with me, and we go coach the younger kids. And at first they're like, "Oh my God, we're not getting anything done." I'm like, "Hey, take a breath.
Yeah.
Like it's okay."
Yeah.
And it's just funny.
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, that point of itself, like I really struggled. So when I was living in Los Angeles, I was running a club program and also running a youth rec program. And so many parents want it to be intense and they want their kids to be X, Y, and Z. And it's, yes, that's important, but you have to facilitate in rec sports and youth sports
Yeah,
the fun of it.
totally.
Or else you are going to cause them to get burnout
I
and
know.
quit early, and that's unfortunate. But
It's
that's
a
why I do
game.
love going to the youth level, because there is more of that,
Yeah.
space to have play fun games.
Yeah.
Talking about a day. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. One day I literally went from running through a film session with one of the college athletes. Then I went to working with a middle school goalie, and then I went to coaching this little small group of their literally 3 to 6 year olds. Oh my God, it was great. They literally all. I set up this tag game. It was there's a bunch of rules to it, but they literally just wanted to play tag the whole time.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of I wanted to explain to the parents, like, look, this actually does serve a purpose, but like the kids are loving it because it's just a game. Like that's what they want to do, as long as they're running around. And we obviously did go over some lacrosse stuff, but I totally agree, and I love that the parents were amped by that, because we don't see that enough in youth sports for sure.
Totally. And I used totally there instead of absolutely.
I love it.
Getting better, baby. The last thing, and then we'll go to, I want to touch on the mindset manual and what you're up to these days. But the last piece there, I think we forget that it's a game, and it doesn't, you can care a ton about the game. You can put all this energy into the game, but it kind of goes back to that separation of identity. And, before our big game on Wednesday in the huddle, I told my defense, I said, "Hey, this is a challenge. This is a challenge. This is a game. You are being challenged." And, I've talked to them a little bit about that. You're not being threatened. This is not win or lose. It's a game, and I think that can shift your perspective. And I know it does for me too, because if we lost that game, because I prepped myself that this is a game, I would be able to go home and, be able to, that's not who I am. A loss is not who I am. It's just what I do. It's my coaching hat. So I think it's also just a good mantra to remind ourselves this is a game. So let's dive into the mindset manual. I've used it. I'm a big fan of just going through it as, a mental performance coach and just seeing how you've laid things out. And both you can touch on like the actual process of putting it together, because I'm seeing a lot more now services to help people write books. I've noticed that. I've been listening to that in a lot of podcasts, hearing people talk about that. And it's something, everyone has a book inside of them, and you got one out, and it's a manual, right? But it's dense and it has a lot of great material in there. So maybe the process of writing it, and has to help you and the athletes you work with, and just kind of the whole thing.
Yeah. So I guess it's actually been a long process to get to that point. For me, the mental hurdles have been very long-winded, and it's something that in coaching I always wanted to use my story to help my players, but I realized just sharing my story wasn't enough. I can sit there and say, I had all of these struggles, and here I am now, but I didn't have any theoretical knowledge. I didn't have vocabulary. I didn't have a toolbox of skills to be able to give to these kids and say, this is the process. This is how you can get there too. And so I went through a mindfulness for student athletes course. I went through Brian Kane's mental performance coach, and, it was there that I really came to find everything that I needed combined with my experiences to go and give it to people. And, as unfortunate as this coronavirus was, it really facilitated connection virtually. And for me, that was through the club team I was coaching. I was really upset leaving them. I had gotten so close to those families and kids, absolutely love them. But I wanted to, go pursue my passion in coaching at the next level. And so when everything was down, they're trying to figure out what they're doing. I still regularly talk to them and the people that own the program and talking about how, we could maybe, still work together now in this platform that we have. Mm-hmm. And so we were just talking, going through ideas, and I said, the mental game is something that is really important to me. And, I've just finished these certifications, and I would love to attempt to create a program for the girls to help them. They were all for it. So what I did, basically, just wrote down so many different things, so many different ways I could have gone about it, but I created a curriculum and with weekly sessions and practices for them to do in between the sessions. Yeah. So it'd basically be a video of me talking, and then they would get the assignment for the week. And then they'd have a check-in at the end of the week with their coaches to see how it went. The coaches would then give me feedback. Yep. And then we go to the next week, and it was 8 weeks. And so in thinking about it, it went really well. I got incredible feedback on how every single skill gave them something. And it was really incredible, the feedback. Awesome. It was everything I wanted it to be, really. And so I was like, I want more kids to have this. I want anyone who is willing to put in the work, because that's the biggest thing with it. You have to be willing to do it and have patience through it and put in the work to actually learn it and help facilitate that change. And so I just needed to put it down. So I created this book and took every piece from that course that I taught and put it into this really, it's short, but it is very dense. I will absolutely admit that. There's a lot of info in there, but if you're willing to take the time and go through it, it's very beneficial. And it's something where, speaking to the reflection and journaling, it gives kids the space to really go through that. And it's interesting too, because when I first wrote it, I thought this was going to be targeted to younger kids, but actually, like, I've had college athletes reach out about it. And so that's really exciting for me to be able to help these athletes that maybe didn't have this information when they were younger, like me, to help them in their journey. Because that's ultimately what I want to do with this. Yeah. I want to help kids not have the same story I did,
The last piece you just said reminds me of the quote that you help the person that you once were, right? You serve the person that you once were. And if you keep elevating yourself, you can really open up a wide gap of people that you can help. And I know that the manual does a lot of that. And it's inspiring to me. And it's something that I've sat on, putting my own curriculum together, and I'm working on it. But just sitting here, I got really inspired. I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go get the hell out of here. Give me the space. I need to work. And I'm so fired up about it. And then the one question that we didn't talk about that I've been asking every guest, and I know you're in tune with it. So we'll just go real quick. Okay. Inspiration, information, you got to be a hunter of both, right? You got to, for me, if you really want to be the best version of yourself, you got to be consuming both of those two things. Yeah. Can you talk about either one of those, and how do you consume those type of the content that inspires you or informs you to be a better person or coach?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much I could dive into. For me, I try to, this is informationally, it's really easy when you're coaching to be in coaching, and yes, the relationships are incredibly important as well, but also there's this entire world and all of these things going on, which is very daunting to keep up with. Yeah. But there's just it's so important to remember how small actually lacrosse is and what we do is. And there's so many other things going on that also need our attention. Totally. Whether it's social justice and reform, politics, which people struggle a lot with, but it is important to be informed about these things so that you can help facilitate change in other ways, maybe not projecting your political beliefs on other people, but, at least having conversations about, what's going on. Yeah. And reminding kids of that too, because I think that's a large part of problems too, is they overemphasize, again, going back to, the identity piece too. Yeah. how that should impact them and forgetting the fun of it. But aside from the skim that I read, that's the daily skim, just get an email, a really quick breakdown of what's going on. There's a weekly article called Brain Pickings that this woman, Maria Popova, puts out. It's a free email, and it just varies on what she talks about, but has just totally expanded my thought process on outlooks on life, whether it's like kindness. And the last one last week was on the power of silence, and I decided to do a silent workout, which was incredible. Highly recommend for just getting comfortable in that space.
Totally.
Because I think it's one thing to go through a meditation, right, where you're comfortable. It's another to really see where your mind goes when you get uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Which is incredibly powerful. And then from a coaching perspective, I mean, I'm going through some certifications right now, the EXO certification that you're on.
Love that one.
And then corrective exercise specialist certification as well.
Nice.
So I can kind of help. I also, in my lacrosse training, I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach, personal trainer. And so I've started to work with a little older clients, like my parents' friends, which I'm super excited about, but they're having, little nagging injuries. And so, what are some of the rehab exercises that I can, learn to help them on their process to recovery?
Amazing.
And just increase my knowledge, because I didn't actually study anatomy, physiology, exercise science. I just studied as much as I possibly could on my own after the fact to get these certifications moving forward. So I really try to digest any of that. All of Les's Instagram stuff I try to consume as well. And then oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the podcast. The
One Big Team podcast?
Obviously that one.
I heard that one's hot.
Oh my gosh, why am I blanking? I just signed up for their Way of Champions.
Okay.
Really big fan of that as well.
Cool.
I've just learned so much from that. Those are probably my biggest go-tos.
Love it. And, it's hard for me to even, I know because we've talked about this, but that how much that has helped, just constantly just feeding yourself good material and every day just getting a little bit better of being an expert, and over time it just is, it's so powerful. And I shared the story 5 years ago. I was like, I'm just going to listen to podcasts and audiobooks and really make sure that I'm not wasting time on stuff. Still get distracted with social media. But when I'm in the car, I don't really listen to much music. I want to listen to experts. And now, 5 years down the road, I'm like, whoa, there's a whole world a world of coaching and communication and spirituality that I'm in tune with now because I made that decision some time ago to really listen to it. So I really want to always, motivate and share that with just the younger listeners, especially because I think people our age are in tune with, all right, podcasts. I don't need to waste my time with other stuff. Let me learn a little bit. And I want the younger generation to get on that a little bit earlier, which I think they're primed to do with the way that they digest content. Yeah. All right. So lastly, what are you up to now coaching, and, what do you, see for yourself and the athletes that you work with, and, what's next? What's coming up for you?
So I mean, where I am and where I'm going is just lots of coaching. When I left Ohio, when I was volunteer coaching, I was also training at a gym. And when I was leaving, the owner said, I hope you don't stop coaching. Yeah. And I've just really taken that to heart. And that really meant a lot to me that he said that, because at that point, I moved there in January and so I started working at this facility in February and season ended in March. So he knew me for all of maybe a month. And so that's really my vision, is to just coach it up as much as I can. My ultimate goal in life is to simply make impact with kids, with the sport, however I possibly can do that. Yeah. I actually said I was talking to a friend a few weeks ago, because my friends give me crap because whenever I meet someone for the first time, the question comes up, so where'd you go to school? And I usually am like, I went to school in California, because, Classic. I say go to Stanford, they'll, you get, whoa. But then sometimes, if you say I went to a school in California, they're like, okay, that's kind of worse. But they're like, I can't believe you don't are shouting that for the rooftops. And, what I said to my friend was like, my goal is that, you know, going to Stanford is the least impressive or interesting thing about me.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm so proud of myself for going to that school. I worked so hard to get there. But again, going back to identity, like one thing is never going to identify who I am.
Absolutely.
And I don't want it to define me either. Because we as people are so many different things, and you know, I want to encourage athletes to do that, and I just want to be a vehicle for helping people in whatever capacity that will be.
Let's go.
So that's my vision.
Fire me up.
That's my vision.
That's the best.
And that's why I'm also so excited to connect with people like you who are on that same vision and same path. And I just want to do some good.
Let's
you know?
go.
Yeah.
I'm fired up. I absolutely love it. That's the best. Lyndsey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything, your expertise and your struggles and the skills and strategies that help you overcome them and all the stories in between. So thank you so much. I'm really excited for our future and what we're going to do together with coaching. And yeah, I just really, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and talk to you. I really appreciate it so much.
Let's go. One big team, baby. Here we go.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.